So that was very interesting to hear everybody and everybody's introduction. So I know a little bit more about you. So now you can know a little bit more about me. Yes, obviously I have children because I had a children's problem this morning, but I'm interested in the whole issue of getting older and whether you do or don't have children, and your involvement with generations across the generations. So I am the Intergenerational Coordinator for York City Council. My name's Melanie Elkan. I think I have a unique role in that I don't think there are any other intergenerational coordinators in any other councils. So it would make you wonder, why did York decide that they would have one? Initially, the role was around Homeshare, and I'll talk a bit about Homeshare later. But the reason that York wanted an intergenerational coordinator, or decided that they would appoint one, is because of some of these issues. That Britain is really segregated in ages, so lots of things go on for older people and younger people, but they don't interact. And in Britain, that happens more than in a lot of other countries. It's quite interesting about the French issue, isn't it? Because that might be one of the reasons there's more interaction, because the law says there should be. Also, families are increasingly fragmented. That can be as a result of them separation initially, or because children move away. Also, services are often segregated by age. There are services for younger people, services for children, services for older people, and they're not interacting. And because of all these reasons, there can be a lack of connection between age groups. So that can affect the trust and make people feel more divided, so they don't kind of understand each other, make prejudgments about each other. And there's been an awful lot of research about loneliness and isolation, and across York, I think it's 20 of the 21 wards have loneliness and isolation as one of the top priorities for the population in York. And whilst that's often seen as an issue for older people, there are an awful lot of younger people who are also isolated and lonely, and it's an increasing problem. Added to that, the issues at the moment, so things around care, the financing of care, of childcare, of education, of health, housing, and issues in the community. So all of those things come together, and there's a consideration to look at around working together with generations and between generations. Okay, this is a lot of writing on the slide. I don't have to go through the slide, but I just wanted to think about a little bit about what is an intergenerational activity and why might we do it. So bringing people together to do something that is mutually beneficial. I think one of my main focuses is about the fact that it can be a reciprocal relationship. It isn't about young people looking after older people or older people looking after younger people, but it's the interaction and something meaningful between all generations. And that's another thing where I've put about bringing together all ages. So it's not just about the extreme ages, but it's about teenagers with younger people. It's about older people with teenagers, and all the mix together, so that there's a kind of sense that we are all part of a whole, and that we can learn together. It's not just about learning as well. I've only put learn there, but I think we can play together as well. It's about learning together, enjoying, engaging in things together, but learning from each other, so that people have things to offer each other. And also that lifelong learning, that we continue learning throughout our lives. There's a lot about learning, you know, obviously from a very small child onwards, but then continuing to learn throughout your lifetime. And that can be something that is done alongside people of different generations. We've got a lot to learn from each other. Next one. So for that reason, an intergenerational coordinator has been appointed, which is me. I've been in post since January. There have been other people working around the issues of working with Homeshare, but my brief is broader. And you can see that lovely picture of me looking very tanned and happy as I was on holiday. What my role, what am I doing here? Well, I'm identifying different opportunities that there are. What things can we do? What is already happening, which is quite a lot. What could happen? What things can we create? Having a look at things that are working well, the good practice of intergenerational activities. Finding ways to link people and organisations. So linking individuals with different intergenerational activities, but also organisations that might be able to offer things, and maybe changing the mindset a little bit by something that has really been around involving young people. Perhaps we can include older people in that, and vice versa, and encouraging all those intergenerational activities across York and maybe beyond. Oops. I want to do that one. So looking at this, it's some of the things that have been happening. So I'll go through them, but I am sure that some of you will have some ideas and maybe are involved in things that I don't know about. It's a massive job to collate every intergenerational activity or everything that could be intergenerational in York, but I'll go through some of them and give a little brief outline about some about the things that I've mentioned, and then you could at the end tell me some of your ideas or some things that you might be involved in. Some of them are formal and some of them are informal, and I'm sure a lot of you are involved in informal intergenerational activities. So I'll start with Homeshare, which was the reason for having someone in my post at all. Some of you, I'm sure, know about Homeshare. I heard it described actually today at its simplest, is it's people of different ages sharing a home to give each other company and support. So at its most basic, that's what it is. Generally, what it is an older person who is a householder, as we describe them, someone who has a house with a spare room, who doesn't need care particularly, but could do with a little bit of help, maybe help around the house and the garden, or just company. And they, if they've got a spare room, can have a younger person who is looking for somewhere to live with maybe a bit lower rent, as we know that the rent in York is very, very high. And they will engage and enjoy that company as well, and offer some support. Around 10 hours a week is suggested as the amount of time that they would give that support for. It's a formal relationship, it's a formal arrangement. This is arranged, it's a national programme, but in York it's managed by the council, and I'm the person who would do the matching and help the people who are involved in that relationship to make sure that the relationship is working well, that the house is appropriate, and that the match is good. And that's what's really important, that the householder and the house sharer have things in common and would get on well living together. The house share can be minimum of 6 months, maximum of however long you would like it to be. It's important that the householder doesn't need personal care, but care in the sense of companionship and a little bit of help. That has been growing very slowly in York, but it is growing. And as I said, it's a national programme. It's much bigger in some of the other areas. But if there's anybody who thinks that they may be interested, they have a house, they have a spare room, they would be interested in sharing with a younger house sharer, then get in touch with me, because we could start the process to talk about it, even if you just would like a little bit more information. I think for AWOC, that might be a really useful thing to have a look at, because if you don't have children or family close by, having somebody there to support you in your home can be very helpful in that sort of friendly type relationship. So yeah, that could be a solution for some people, and to bear it in mind. So and the other things that I've listed, social connections, that's run through the university, where employee volunteers go and they do various different things in supporting older people in the community. Could be trips, could be going for walks, a variety of things. Another thing that I manage is the garden share. So if an older person has a large garden that they can't manage, they would share it, or share a portion of it, with somebody who doesn't have a garden. And at the moment, it's really hard to get an allotment. So it might be a 2-year wait. So I have a share where somebody's sharing part of the garden, and they're growing vegetables in a portion of the garden, which they can then share with the homeowner where they've grown their vegetables. But it also is a visit. So it means that somebody's coming in to see them and have a chat as well on a regular basis. York Cares is also run from the university using, there's employee volunteers, local employee volunteers going out and supporting people in the community. Dandelion Arts is a really lovely arts and drama voluntary sector organisation, and they do a variety of things, intergenerational plays and initiatives. Over the pandemic, they had a project working in care homes with children in primary schools, and the children in the primary schools designed and made cards and sent them to the people in the care homes, and developed a relationship. And whilst they couldn't see each other, once they could see each other, then they met. And they've done a whole load of different really lovely examples of intergenerational performances as well. Musical Connections is another one. I think some of you may know about that. They do singing and other kinds of musical activities with different generations. I think they often work with people with dementia, but it can be a range of people. There are lots of intergenerational projects at schools where either older people are supported by the young people, or the other way around, older people are coming in and doing things like mentoring and supporting the young people. We've got lots of things where we're looking at different things where they could work together, things like playing chess or doing different sorts of activities where we can cross over the intergenerational gap. University students, there's a section of university students who are volunteering in the community, doing a range of things with different age groups, older people and younger people. You may have heard of Good Gym. They are an organisation that encourage people to go and do good things in the community, but they usually run to them or cycle to them. But one of the things that they're doing at the moment, and we're running a pilot project with Good Gym, is that they are going to visit people to help them in their gardens, but they also have a social visit. So they go, they have a chat, they do a bit of work in the garden, have another chat, go home. But they can do that obviously in the summer and the autumn months. When it gets to winter and there's a lot less to do in the garden, then it is just a social visit. They'd come and just see people, have a chat. Bike Bells, another really lovely organisation. They originally formed to help people cycle who didn't have confidence, and it was generally for women, but I think they've broadened that out, and they do all kinds of different cycling activities, one of which is going on memory cycles, cycling around, say, York, reminding people of places that they used to go. They'd encourage people to cycle on their own or develop the confidence to cycle, but they have a range of bicycles that people can either sit in, they don't have to cycle, or they can cycle with assistance. They can sit alongside, like in a kind of rickshaw type thing. All kinds of things that they're doing, taking people out on bikes. There are community music groups. I belong to one called Bargistra, which is connected to the Arts Barge, and we have people, we've got, I think the youngest is 10 and the oldest is in their 70s, and we come together, we practice and play music at community events generally. You don't have to be fantastic, obviously. I'm playing with them. You just have to read music a little bit. There's another organisation called MoveMates. Again, they started off by taking people, well, they do a range of things. They take people out for walks, they go on group walks, they have volunteers to come and help people get out, go for a walk, engage in their community. Dance Space have been running an older people's dance group, that's an over 50s dance group, I think. And now they're going to look at making that an intergenerational dance group. Dringhouse's Indoor Bowls, that's my flagship organisation, where we have run family bowling initiatives, where most of their members are older and they want to have younger members. So we brought in families to learn and experience how to engage with bowling, how to do indoor bowling. I learned a lot about bowling there, and then they were put together with experienced people. So there'd be older people, parents, little children, all together doing learning indoor bowls. That was so successful. We're going to look at that for our intergenerational social clubs, which I will tell you about after this. Then I'm very interested in intergenerational housing, and there are several housing projects. Obviously in York, there's constant exploration of how they're going to build, what they're going to build, and how it's going to be. So some of you who are actually in York may be aware that they're around Ordnance Lane, sort of just in Fulford. There's a housing project, and a part of that housing project, that building programme, will be to build a part of that as intergenerational housing. So what that means is, rather than segregating, having this is older people's housing, this is family housing, this is housing for young single people, but trying to put these together, and not only that, also have a meeting area for intergenerational activities, where the people who live in that area can decide on things that they would like to do and they would like to engage as a community. The final thing that I've listed there, and as I said, this is probably only a very tiny amount of everything that goes on, is York Cares Family. This is a pilot project that is being begun. I was going to say as we speak, but it's not as we speak, it's this evening. the very first part of this project is happening this evening, which I will tell you about now. Okay, so the Cares Family project is, the Cares Family is a programme, can't say it's national, it began in London. There's 3 different, I think, locations in London, East, North and South, yes. So I don't think there is a West London one. And the idea is to bring older and younger neighbours together, engaging first in social clubs. So we're going to start that pilot here. There's that lovely picture again, me and Megan. And the first one is going to be at the Indoor Bowls Club. And we're going to invite older and younger neighbours to come and engage and play bowls, but we're also going to have an arts activity and some puns. But the idea of the whole thing is that you bring the generations together, and it's not about younger people looking after older people. It's about developing friendships and relationships between older and younger people. It's about learning from each other. It's a true sort of intergenerational activity as we'd like to see it. And with these social clubs, we've got several going on that will be going on throughout the year until the pilots, I think, is going to be until February, which hopefully will be a great success, and then we'll roll it out and make it a little bit bigger and include more people. What they like to do is try and have a look at a range of activities that might engage people. So not necessarily the types of things that might go on in some social clubs like bingo, but something a little bit broader, bringing in everybody. But at the moment, what we've got is the bowls, we've got some trips coming up, and we've got a barn dance. So those things will bring people together and help them develop those relationships. And ultimately, once the social clubs have evolved, then the members can lead with their ideas. And we know that people will have great resources and ideas in what they might want to do. Each of the social clubs, each of the areas, sorry, are designed to fit in with the kind of character of the place that they're set in. And on Monday, I went to an example of that in Liverpool, and they were doing a sing-along and writing some songs and doing some rhythms together. It was in a pub, and it was pretty well attended for a Monday afternoon. But you know, the songs that they were singing were all about Liverpool, and obviously that's that's what would happen there, and that's how people would like to engage. In York, it would be different things and different kind of ideas about how people would like to engage. So we'll see how that evolves, but anybody who's interested in the social clubs, please let me know. They will happen in the day, and there will be some in the evening. So we're hoping to make them all as accessible as possible and free. Okay, so outside of York, some other examples, and in fact, the did I get my cursor? This lady here was the one that I met on Monday. She was a runner, and she told me all about her running. So that was the Liverpool Cares there. That I have visited. Then there are other projects, and these are things that are in other areas where children have been going into care homes. There's lots of examples of older people mentoring in schools, and examples, really nice examples of intergenerational housing, which I can tell you about. Okay, so we're going a little bit further afield now for examples of some of them, and these were things that I found quite inspiring when we were looking at the intergenerational housing, and I just thought I'd throw this in as a little added extra. But so yes, when considering what might happen in York and the ways that intergenerational housing might happen, I had a little bit of research about other places where they have developed intergenerational housing, and one of the areas was in Barcelona. Unfortunately, I didn't get to visit. I hope, maybe at some point I could do that. It would have been nice. But there they built some very nice apartments, but in a block in Barcelona. Barcelona's accommodation is it's in high demand. And they moved some of the older people who had not such great housing into this housing, which was very nice. And it was interspersed with students living in the housing. And the students got the accommodation for low rent, but a part of what they the reason they got their low rent, what they agreed to was that they would help the older people. I don't know the amount of time, but they would give a certain amount of time to the older people, and they would have one social a week. And the social might be just having a cup of tea, or you know, engaging in that way, or it might be there was some examples of when they had a little party together, and they all met together and had a party. So that was supporting people with what they needed and giving the students cheaper accommodation, but also developing those relationships between each other. Another example, and the one that I saw was in America. I know it's a big place. I can't remember exactly where it was in America, but it was another housing development where older single women and single mothers shared the spaces. So the young single mothers had the older women who helped them with their babies. So they had their wisdom or their time or whatever they did. They were supporting the single mothers, but then that would go the other way as well, where the single mothers could also support the older women, which I thought was a nice idea. And I did get to visit, the only one I did get to visit was the one that was near Sheffield. And that was like a housing, it's got a very long history actually. There were old railway cottages, but there was no longer any railway. And they were able to live together, but had a big space where they could grow food. So that's something that might become a significant thing in the future, but also you've got a community there where people can support each other within that community, so support with growing food together, but obviously there are people on hand and people around and people who have relationships within that community. So that's kind of like the final bit of what I wanted to talk about that I have been looking at. But what I'd really like to know from you about things that you might be involved in, about what's working well. Where are there gaps? Where are there things for you that you think, oh, it would be really nice? Do I know my neighbours? Do my neighbours know me? What, maybe over COVID things were better because people helped out and now it's stopped, or something different? I don't know. What ideas have you got for improving intergenerational activities and interaction? So I'd love to hear from you, really. Thank you very much. I'll just leave that there for if people want to get in touch with me.